So if you're not growing your business, then that customer is going to go somewhere else. If you're at saturation, then they're not going to be able to grow and they're not going to be able to stay with you, which means they're going to go out in the market and try to find somebody else. And there's a good chance that they find somebody else that is able to service all of their needs, not just the ones that you're doing now and not just the stuff that you can't do.
Welcome to the Machine Shop Mastery Podcast, where we uncover the stories behind successful machine shops and their owners. By interviewing current and former shop owners, we dig deep to unveil their secrets of success and the struggles and challenges they've overcome on their paths to building thriving shops. We aim to elevate how important the machining industry is and inspire others by highlighting why owning a shop can be a great vehicle to creating jobs, stimulating the economy, and creating wealth. Here's our host, former machine shop owner himself, Paul Van Meter.
Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Machine Shop Mastery. I got to sit down today with Chris Welch from Swissomation, a really impressive shop that has two locations. And then Chris's family clearly has been in the machining industry a long time. His uncle and cousins have shops. His parents used to have another shop that he grew up in. So machining is in their blood. And when you have someone like Chris that has lived the industry for so long and been so embedded in it, I think it's almost impossible to not get really good at it. And it is clear that Chris is very good at running this business and being in the machining industry. This was a very insightful episode. We dig into a lot of really important things. And I think the most important takeaway of all of it, and as you're about to listen to this, think about the building a long-term durable business that can survive the ups and downs, that isn't focused on the near-term wins, the cash grabs, the spending your profits on I don't want to say frivolous things, but on things that may not add durability and stability to a business. And that is the long-term game. And Chris is clearly very good at this. So it's a fun conversation. Again, he's super insightful. So get your pen and pencil out and enjoy this episode with Chris. Chris, welcome to the Machine Shop Mastery Podcast. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, I am excited to dig in and talk. When you and I got to meet a little bit at the Summit on the Summit, and you were on the panel that we ran, I was just kind of intrigued by your story and decided I wanted to have you share it here on the podcast. So thank you for being on here with us.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
So tell us about Swissomation. Tell us about how you started it or inherited it or whatever in the background, and we'll go from there.
All started in 1997. I had left a big shop here in Texas, went to work for a shop in Long Island, New York, with the intention to move some of their equipment down to Texas. After about 3 months of being up there, they decided they weren't going to move to Texas. And so I went
Oh
looking for another
no.
job.
Oh
Um,
no.
I went into business with a guy in New Jersey with the intention to move out of New Jersey
Uh-huh.
and went into business with him in 97. We moved our company out of the state. Uh, 7 years later, we split the company and I carved out I took 7 machines, uh, some customers and some material and moved down to Texas. And
Okay.
so started out in 2004 down here, but it was really a subsidiary of that company originally. So we kind of trace
Mm-hmm.
our roots back to 1997, um,
Okay.
and have kind of built it up from there. In around 2013, my parents, who were in the machining industry when I was growing up, they had sold out of their
Mm.
company, and my stepdad had gone in to be an airline pilot. And around 2008, 2009, the airline industry was not in good shape and he
I
lost his
remember that
job.
well.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a good situation. And he lost his job at around Christmas, got laid off,
Yeah.
and then
Brutal.
basically found out the company was shutting down right after Christmas. I believe it was Christmas of '09. decided to get back into machining. And so
Okay.
they started a shop in Virginia, and it was kind of in their garage. Well, in
Mm-hmm.
2013, they had purchased a building, were kind of struggling to get enough work to keep overhead, things like that going.
Mm-hmm.
I had the
Mm-hmm.
opposite problem here. I had tons of work. I had done a lot of advertising. I had a lot of machines. I was struggling to get people in Texas at the time, and also struggling a little bit with the management side of things. So uh, I invited my mom at the time, or my mom, she's always been my mom, uh, to come with me to a couple of shows and drum up some business. And as we started to kind of talk about the problems and the struggles that they had and I had, we realized that they're opposite, right? I'm short
Mm-hmm.
on people, kind of struggling on the management side at that time. That transition from being a single manager over everybody, as tends to scale, you have to go
Yeah,
through a transition as an owner, right?
of
And I
course.
was struggling with that transition. Uh, so talking to my mom, we talked about it, and I said, "Hey, what if we do a joint venture? And I send a bunch of machines up and work up, and we do a Swissomation Virginia. You
Mm-hmm.
guys run it," because my brother and his wife were in the company at the time, and are still in the company. My mom and
Mm-hmm.
dad, and so they kind of had a four-person management. They lived in a larger area, had a bigger building, so it seemed like they could scale, and I could kind of focus on some of my brand businesses that I had.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of went down that path and started Swissomation Virginia. Today, we both have right around 60 machines, looking at
And
120 total.
wow, impressive.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
I shipped back at that time. I shipped 12 of my machines up there in the work, and so and then
Okay.
we've since kind of absorbed the company that they have into the operating of Swissomation Virginia, and we operate as Swissomation Virginia. Uh, so it's kind of how we got where we are today.
Very cool. And the
So
four of them are still leading that facility?
So my mother has retired. My dad is semi-retired, still doing kind of special project stuff. And my sister-in-law Susan and brother John run the day-to-day up there. And I work more as an advisor in that shop and still helping them with a lot of the sales and things like that. So um,
Cool.
yeah,
And you talked about product businesses a little bit. Tell us a
yeah,
little bit more about that.
yeah. So we've got a company in the firearms industry that does some
Okay.
firearm accessories. We've got a company that does dive accessories. We have recently purchased on April 7th. I bought a company called Peak Fishing, which makes fly fishing vices
Mhm.
for tying your own flies. It's not just fly fishing, it's also some jigs and other things that can be tied on those
Mm.
vices. So brought that in house. And then we have another company called AIQ Manufacturing, which has other consumer-based products that we can make in the machine shop, that we've had to make for our own use and decided to just try to sell those, so,
Okay. Wow. That's the dream of many shops is to have product business as well as job shop business.
yeah.
How much of the work you do is in service of your product businesses?
So right now, I would say we're probably into around a 33% is in the product business and about,
Nice.
about a third product and
Mhm.
about 2/3 outside.
Okay.
So,
And
depends on the year.
yeah, and is that inclusive of both facilities or just the Texas one?
That's just the Texas one, I would say. The
Okay.
Virginia one is probably 5 to 10%, depending on the year, towards
Mhm.
the product business side.
Okay.
So
Cool. Well, that's a lot of logos and businesses to keep track of.
it is.
You you're a hardworking guy. How do you keep track of it all?
We have good people.
There
So,
you go. There you
my
go.
brother and his wife run the Virginia shop, so I really don't have to be stressed with that on a day to day side. Just really as advisory role
Mhm.
there. I'm still president of the company, but more for symbolic and some regulatory reasons than it is for the day to day operation side, right? And then
Yep.
our Texas shop is mostly run by my daughter Kaylee and my son Caleb. They run the
Oh,
day-to-day
nice.
operation out of the Texas shop.
Okay. You've worked yourself out of a job mostly.
Trying. So that's
That's the that's the dream. That's awesome.
Fellas, hey, well, I got you both real quick. So I'm really trying to drill in like our work holding options at Hill and all of our shops. Got any advice?
Mike, it's as simple as RASRAM.
As what?
RASRAM, you've never heard of it?
I have not.
Paul?
What Nick is referring to is the 7 habits of highly effective work holding:
That makes more sense.
repeatability, accessibility, scalability, reliability, adaptability, and modularity.
If you want to find all of these principles in one catalog, check out the SMW Autoblock catalog. You can find it at smwautoblog.com.
Thanks, fellas.
Very cool. All right. And what industries do you serve outside of the product businesses?
We are very diversified. Started out 99% telecommunications. In 2001, when the bottom fell out of that, we went through a rough time. Luckily, we had always, at that time, mainly bought equipment cash based, had got a little bit of financing just right before the bottom fell out. Uh,
Hmm.
that was a rough time, honestly. We never laid anybody off. In the 29 years I've been in business, I've never laid a person off. We had to cut hours to 40 hours back then. So we cut out overtime, but we kept everybody
Wow.
on staff and kept everybody there. But I didn't take a paycheck, and my business partner at the time didn't take a paycheck for months.
Hmm.
I leveraged my credit cards to keep the business afloat and keep the employees employed. I learned a very important lesson at that time not to be too focused on one industry and to be a little more diversified. So we started to branch out uh, after that time, and we probably were 70% telecommunications up until around '07. And I had one of my largest customers pull a whole lot of their work in-house. They had been kind of pulling stuff in slowly over the years, and then they just decided, hey, we're going to pull everything in-house, and that hurt. They were about
Hmm.
50% of my sales, the
Wow.
one customer, and at that point, I made a decision that I wasn't going to let anybody get to be more than 20% of my sales. Uh, and nowadays, the only customer that is more than 20% of my sales is my own company. Uh, and we're very diversified now into the defense industry, very little aerospace, medical, dental. We do prototypes for several of the big tech companies. We
Hmm.
do a lot of aviation connectors, things like that for one of the big avionics brands out there. Myriad of other industries on a smaller side. You know, we make things for pitching machines, uh, firefighter gear, uh,
Hmm.
just about everything you can imagine now. We do a lot of trade shows and really have worked hard to diversify the business. And it's worked well for us because as one industry kind of slows down, another one seems to come up. The
Hmm.
challenges seem to be more times like today where everything's busy. That seems to be
Hmm.
our biggest challenge rather than going through the times where nothing's busy.
Right. Right.
So
Okay. So you mentioned the word advertising earlier. You just mentioned the word trade shows. Can you just elaborate a little more on your strategy for this diversification? I mean,
uh,
do you have people employed full time in sales and marketing? Do you just do it yourself?
we do a lot of it ourselves. My wife and I, my daughter, my son, sister in law, my brother, my parents occasionally will do shows around the country. We also do internet advertising, Google stuff, some ads on different websites, and have been working more recently on social media type stuff.
Hmm.
Uh, we kind of carpet bomb everything. Some things are more effective at some times than others. One thing that I've always done is spent more on advertising than I needed to. So even in
Hmm.
times that are busy, I will spend time advertising and money on advertising so that when the slow time comes around, there's kind of a spool up to that advertising. So spending the money up front prevents you from getting slow, A, and B, when you do get slow, that stuff is in place. And in '07, when I lost that 55% of my sales, the biggest customer, it really seemed awful at the time. It was a rough time. We had to go through it, but it was a blessing in the end. I feel like, it really was a blessing because at the time that we lost our biggest customer, everything else was booming. So we were able to go out, do some advertising, get out there, replace that sales. And our advertising was in place when '08, '09 came in and the bottom dropped out, where very big companies that I knew and are friends with in the industry were calling me looking for work. I was
Mm.
up 35% in '09 when a lot of shops were laying off and struggling.
Wow.
I was up mainly due to the advertising and the fact that I got a jump on it in '07. And I kind of learned from that. Always keep that going.
Hmm. Wow. I'm so glad we got into this. This is like this is exactly the guidance that I've been trying to share for years, and I learned it the hard way myself. Our My shop's most difficult time was after 9/11, and we were heavy into aerospace, and that just dried up instantly. And we did have to lay people off after some much consternation, and barely made it through that period. But that's when we learned the whole, you have to be sales and marketing driven all the time, even when you're busy. And so I've been kind of preaching that ever since. And I'm so glad that you mentioned it. And it's a message that people need to hear, because it's often not the case. I just got a LinkedIn message from someone this morning who said, one of my biggest customers just pulled a bunch of their work. I'm sick and tired of this. I don't know what to do. I might need to do some advertising. Word of mouth isn't working for me anymore.
Yep.
And it's like, yep, that is true. That is true. That's what you need to do.
Yeah,
Um,
word of mouth is the best advertising, but when things are slow, word of mouth, it takes a lot longer to get that word of mouth, and that's
mhm.
something that gets built over time. It's
Yeah,
not built overnight. And when things get slow, you need something overnight. That has to be sped up
yeah.
quite a bit. And yeah, at the summit, the machining on the summit, where you were the host of that group that I spoke at, I listened to many machinists and a lot of younger. Uh, I shouldn't say younger, newer shop owners. And one of the things that really struck me is many of them have not been through a bad time yet.
Hmm.
And the perspective changes when you go through, like you did in 2001, where you almost lose everything. Uh, and I see I've been through so many ups and downs now. Uh,
Hmm.
across the years since 1997, and I've been in the industry and lived, growing up in this industry and being a kid in the '80s, listening to my parents at the table talk about how rough things were and how difficult this was and machine payments and watch them in the mid '90s when they had a huge order from a customer. They placed an order they shouldn't have placed with them. My parents and their business partner at the time went out and bought some new machinery, had some big machine loans. Everything was great for the 6 months until the customer canceled that order. And then, they went through a huge layoff from 35 people to about 20 overnight. Really struggled to get through that time and almost lost their business. And I think that going through that difficult time killed the wind in the sails for them, and they decided to
Hmm.
sell out shortly after that. But
Hmm.
it was a very important lesson for me, who was in college at the time, to look at what happened there and say, okay, if I ever have my own business, I'm not going to get into this situation.
Right.
Um, and so I think that if you're a business owner in a shorter amount of time where you don't ever have that difficult time come into play, it's easier to kind of run things differently than we look at it after you've been through it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's sage advice. Yeah, and there's nothing really like living through it yourself. You can read about it, you can kind of study it, but yeah, there's nothing like actually being through it. But there are some important lessons that you can prepare for in advance, right?
Exactly.
And so it sounds like you try to mostly buy machines with cash and only do a small amount of financing. Is that right?
I don't believe I've financed a machine in over 10 years.
Nice. Okay.
So,
Okay.
and I think that was a kind of 0% deal. Um,
Mm-hmm. Right.
so we buy a lot of used equipment and bring it
Okay.
in and revamp the used equipment and run those. We are pretty good at machine modification. So sometimes we'll
Mm-hmm.
take a machine that uh, didn't come from the factory with live tooling or indexing, and they
Oh wow.
kind of,
And add that.
yep, add that capability and add the live tooling, add the indexing into the machines, which allows us to compete at a little higher level because we have a lot less machine cost in our machines.
Mm-hmm.
So
And for you, the labor cost or whatever to do all that work, what pencils out better than buying a machine that has those capabilities?
it does, especially when you get multiple machines, right? So some of our machinery and in our family, I talked about our Swissomation Texas, Swissomation Virginia. We also have another company or a couple of companies in the family that we have probably another 80 to 90 machines. Um,
Oh wow.
and
Okay.
so my uncle and my cousin have that company, and they have similar machines to what we have. So the live tooling and the mechanical side of things, my uncle designed and helped with, and I made him on my CNC
Mm,
mill before he had a CNC mill, and I did the electronic side and the ladder programming side and the FANUC side of things. So it's kind of like a joint venture. Well, they have been able to buy, 70, 80 of those machines, and I've been able to buy between the two shops. We've bought probably 50 of those machines, and to take those in and be able to add that capability to that many machines, it definitely pencils out better than the alternative.
wow, that's amazing. And or do you have, you mentioned a mill, but are you like 90% Swiss machines? Just very heavy in that?
Yeah, majority of our equipment is out of the 120 machines, it's going to be CNC Swiss, everything from 4 millimeter up to inch and a half, uh,
Okay.
and then we've got three Williman
Oh,
five
nice.
axis bar fed machines, which are kind of that bridge between that next level from the Swiss. Because sometimes we can do a part in the Swiss, but running out of tools, we've only got 7 or 9 live
Mm-hmm.
tools, 10 live tools that we can work with. When it gets above that and it's a little bit more complex, it goes on to Williman. Then we've got uh, three, four. We have one 5 axis Sagami machine that's not a Swiss type, but it is made by a traditional Swiss machine.
Mm-hmm.
Not overly happy with that machine. We've had some troubles with it, but it was kind of a short-lived machine for them. And then we've got vertical mills, three, four, five, six, 7 vertical mills
Okay.
in the company. So
Okay. All right. And so you must be a proponent of the riches are in the niches.
I am, yeah. If you're too diversified, I think it's hard to be good at everything. You become a
Mm-hmm.
jack of all trades and a master of none. And I do believe that we can be good at some milling and the Willemins we're very good at. But as you start to get away too far, handling the really tiny parts that we do in Texas, handling that is a challenge more than machining it in many cases, right? Is what do you do with the
Mm-hmm.
part once you get it off the machine? Yeah,
Right.
I can take an L20 that in a shop that's used to doing stuff from quarter inch to 3/4 of an inch or an inch. But when you start making parts that are 5 thousandths, 10 thousandths diameter, and those parts are coming off and they're 30 thousandths long, I mean they're smaller than the thickness of
Then
the
the chip.
chips coming off of the bigger machines sometimes. Uh,
Sure.
how do you get those? How do you handling them without losing them, cleaning them, counting them, those types of things. So we kind of stick to the smaller size parts here in Texas, and Virginia runs our larger stuff
Mm.
mostly there. So
Okay. Interesting. So when you go to trade shows, you must have all your tiny little parts out there. And is your branding and all about like we're experts, we're the best at these tiny parts? Or
It is. We've kind of diversified that a little bit. Prior to the 2013 timeframe, I had half-inch max capacity on all of my
mm,
machinery, and so it wasn't until
okay,
after we added the Virginia shop that we started to grow into larger machines, and then um, the driving force for me to get into bigger machines in Texas, because we do have a 32 millimeter in Texas, only one. My other two 32 millimeters that I own are in Virginia. But our 20 millimeter, 16 millimeter machines, all of those were added to support the product side of the business. And
right,
then we ended up taking on some job shop work to keep them full and kind of be able to keep staff uh, busy in
sure,
those areas. So
okay, okay, interesting. Um, what types of trade shows do you do? Like the design to part shows, or what kind of things
yep.
do you find effective?
We do design the part shows, and we find them fairly effective for us because unlike a lot of Swiss shops, we specialize in short runs. Anywhere from, uh, it's a large fruit company that makes computers that we do some prototyping for, and it can be anywhere from.
Yeah, Paraelectronics, I've heard of them. Yeah,
So, we will machine for many of the tech companies anywhere from 1 to 10 pieces, 20 pieces, and that's work that most Swiss shops won't touch, right? A lot of them
yeah, for
won't do
sure.
any. They send many of those smaller runs to us. I do that for probably 10 other Swiss shops,
Got
um,
it.
and they will take the stuff 5,000 pieces and higher.
Mm-hmm.
We really love that small stuff. We do a lot of the small short runs, uh, and design a part is a very good outlet for us to be able to get to those engineers and do those short run jobs.
Mm-hmm.
It's a perfect fit for us. I've been doing them for many years, 15 years. We also do internet advertising. We're in some guides, and we've done ThomasNet. We've done, uh, all the Google AdWords, things like that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Google AdWords seems to be good for being able that's the one that you can do the quickest to get work in the door the fastest. It is a challenge to what's the best way to put it? It's a challenge to dial in your campaigns so that you're getting what you're looking for rather than a whole lot of stuff that you can't do, right? So you're paying
Right.
these clicks on companies that are coming through asking you to do something that's way outside of your scope. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that's been a challenge for us, especially with our little niche that we're in.
You have to do a lot of negative keywords and
A
other
lot of negative
things?
keywords, and even just driving that in, I still end up with a lot of stuff that I really don't want.
Okay.
And I had kind of dialed that in, and we started using a service that specializes in this. And what
Mhm.
ended up happening is I ended up spending about 3 or 4 times the money, and getting yeah, I got more quotes. So I will give them that. But
Mhm.
I got way less jobs that I could actually do in the door.
Right. Yep.
So they kind of got rid of a lot of that stuff that I had dialed in, and we traded volume for quality, which
Mhm.
was a problem.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself is a problem because you don't want to upset a customer by ignoring something. So now you have to answer 100 quotes to get five that are relevant rather than getting in, something that's closer to the 80%, 70% hit rate. I also
Yeah.
find that customers that were obtained through that channel have a lower percentage of loyal customers coming from that channel
I could believe that. Yeah.
than other channels that we found. So your bang for the buck doesn't seem to be as good.
Mhm. Is that is that because there's just, buyers out there just, like, firing off RFQs to anyone that seems like they can do it, and they're just trying to find the lowest price?
It appears that way.
Yeah.
I think that it's really easy to go to go to Google, type in Swiss screw machine shop, carpet bomb 10 different companies. And then now these 10 companies are in a group on your computer. And every time you have a Swiss, you send it out to these 10 companies. And,
Yeah.
the lowest bidder gets the job. Uh,
Sure.
where I really like uh, to have long-term customers. Most of our customers we've had for a very long time, and we take care of them. They take care of us. We've had situations. One of our fairly new customers out in California, UPS lost 4 or 5 packages in a row
Oh,
to them.
no. Oh,
Um,
gosh.
and the industry that they're in, it's an industry that somebody could grab stuff that's coming into them and turn around and sell it on eBay or things like that
Mhm.
pretty easily. And so I think, and then calling the actual UPS store in this area of in the Bay Area that they're in, they told us that there's been a large volume of theft out of their Oakland facility. And so,
Oh, man.
after all of those packages were lost, I mean, what do I tell the customer? I mean, it's FOB here, right? It's
Mhm.
$16,000 worth of parts total.
Right.
Um, you have a choice as a machine shop owner, right? Do we, uh, obviously I made money on those parts, so I can rerun those parts for less. Do I stick my customer for it and make them pay for $16,000 worth of parts that they never got and couldn't use? Um, we elected to take care of the customer, and we replaced all $16,000 worth of parts. 2 of the packages were actually special gauges that were ordered, so that was $850
Mm.
worth of gauges each time, and the rest were parts. And I made the decision, we're just going to rerun these parts, replace them. The customer doesn't have to pay anything. And for me, that's the long game, right? Is
Mhm.
that I can play the short game and put the $16,000 in my pocket right now and say, listen, this is our contract. This is what it says. I elected to go the opposite direction and replace those parts for them, and that customer knows who we are now, and they know that no matter what happens, we're going to take care of them, even if we don't have to.
Mhm.
They don't have to force us to do that. So,
Yeah.
um, we're looking more for the loyal customer that we can have a good relationship with, and it's a give or
Mm.
take on both sides.
Sure. Yeah, you're building that loyalty right there with your actions. That's fantastic.
If you're looking to increase your spindle uptime without adding any headcount, check out the Hennig WorkFlow Automation System. I've seen it. I love it. It's a compact, automated pallet delivery solution that lets you work ahead of your machine so your shop never stops. You can load up to 40 pallets with material, fixtures, programs, and just let the workflow cook. A Henning workflow is designed for high mix machining, works with a wide range of machines, and even with a 125-pound payload on top of a 300 millimeter pallet, yet still takes up less space than most competitors' pallet automation system. That means more production, fewer manual changeovers, really just a practical path to high profit, lights out machining. Learn more about Hennig Workflow by visiting hennigworldwide.com/workflow.
You talked about people for a moment. I want to come back and just paint the picture of what it looks like on your floor with the number of machines you have. How I mean, I think of maybe a higher volume Swiss shop is like 60 machines and like 10 people just kind of moving around while they're running for hours and hours. But you do short runs, so just talk about that. What kind of ratios and how you handle that.
So out of our Texas shop, I think we've got 7 set up and operators. So the guys that are setting up are also operating. And then we've got an additional one that just kind of started and is in training at the moment. I'm probably
Mhm.
missing somebody, but it's right around 7 people that are doing that here. Getting the system down is important to be able to do short runs versus long runs. One of the things that I do things a little bit different. I grew up kind of with my parents' shop. My grandfather, uncle had a shop growing up. My cousin and uncle are in that right now. My grandfather passed away about a year and a half ago at 92. And he's the
Mm.
one that started his apprenticeship at 14 in
Mm.
Germany. So he taught us all a lot of ways.
Oh,
But
wow.
as I've gone through and worked at a couple of the different shops, I've taken the things that I like and incorporated those into our business, and then I've kind of not done things I didn't like. Just kind of learning over the years. We run things a little different than many. Uh, we're doing full blueprint checks twice a day on parts, and everybody comes into the inspection room at the same time, and we're rotating stations for people at different stations, and so parts are kind of going through the different stations, and the dimensions are being marked off on the drawing as they're being checked and stuff, and that helps to prevent it gets everybody responsible for the quality on every part that goes out the door. It also gets multiple eyes on the part, so it's very easy to misread a drawing over and over and over again. You read it one time, and then you have
Oh, yeah.
confirmation bias,
Yes.
and you'll run a part, and you're like, "How in the world did we run 10,000 parts with this dimension being out of spec?" Well, it's because the 250 minus 5 thousandths dimension was read as 250 plus 5, and there was only one guy that was checking that, right? And
Hmm.
they missed it, and they misread it. They were checking it and making it the plus 5 and running it in tolerance in their brain, but it was out of
Right.
tolerance, right? So we've tried to put in checks where there's uh, a system behind, and you're not dependent upon one person's look at it. It's not one operator running this, where if you've got another operator coming in, they're worried about what the quality is. Everybody's responsible for the quality on every part. The team comes together, great teamwork among the guys, and everybody's helping each other to get the stuff out the door. Bonus program always helps with pulling everybody together in one direction, and then really the support roles on cleaning and operators on the mill side, packaging, order processing, staff in that side, and then some secondary processing staff over there as well. So
That's interesting. So, on the everyone comes into the QA lab at the same time. So, like 11 a.m., everyone brings the most recent part off their machines, and then just they all kind of check each other's parts and look it over.
yeah, so there's usually it's earlier in the morning than that, and
Okay.
then the afternoon check somewhere around 2:30 or so. And
Okay.
what'll happen is they all work together, and that's the time that, and usually the morning checks is the morning check is a smaller crew than the afternoon check because we've got a crew that comes in fairly early in the morning. It's 3 or 4 guys. They're going to go in, clean all the machines out. Parts go into a kind of a sanitized cup, goes on top
Hmm.
of the machine. They're going to run the next part off the machine, check that first part off the machine. They'll grab
Hmm.
one off the top and do a quick check on some of the diameters of
Sure.
before they clean it out. But then they'll do those all go on a cup. It's kind of quarantined. They run the first part off, make sure that that first part off the machine, full blueprint check, everything's good on that. Then the quarantined parts will get their own ticket, and it's a lot ticket. We wrote all of our own uh, ERP system that we have in house here. So we have that
Hmm.
lot ticket. That lot goes on there after the quality check has been done in the morning, and all of those inspections have been done. And so then in the afternoon, they'll do the same thing. It's kind of the afternoon clean out. They'll grab the last part off the machine, goes to the QC lab for checks. Machines are cleaned out and then put back into production when the parts are checked to be good. They're all running again and most of our machines will run late into the night, if not 24 hours.
Now, how do you get that much runtime if you're doing these short run jobs? Seems like you'd
So,
have a lot more changeovers.
so not everything we do is 1 to 30 pieces, right? We're doing a
Got it.
thousand pieces, we're doing 500 pieces, we're doing 200 pieces, we're doing 1,500 pieces, the occasional 10 or 20,000, and we do runs up to probably 100,000. We've run 1,000,000 pieces on some runs before, but typically there has to be something special on the part or a special relationship with that customer where they're like, "Hey, we know we can get this cheaper. We know it could be run on a multi. We know we can go to this other shop that can run it cheaper, but we really trust what you do, and so we wanna keep it with you."
Okay.
But we do have some longer run stuff. And our own in-house brands, uh, we do get up into the higher volume stuff on some of that.
Got it.
So.
Okay. Okay. And you talked about the system for doing to make short runs effective. What are some of the things you're doing to shorten those setup times and make it effective to do those quick turnovers?
So tooling is a big one, right? How's your tooling stored? Shared tooling when you can between jobs. Scheduling
Hmm.
jobs, not just by, hey, what's due now, but also by where can we share tooling, share material sizes, and grouping jobs on machines so that there's less that the operator has to do that.
Sure.
Um,
Yep.
some of the citizen machines and the editing functions years ago were existed on some of the citizen machines that didn't exist on some of the others. Nowadays, that's less the case. Many of the machines have started to do some of the editing. We do some CAM programming. Obviously, the Mills and the Willemins, all of that are all CAM done.
Hmm.
A lot of our latest stuff is still hand programmed because we can hand
Hmm.
program so quickly by grabbing an existing program that has similar features, spin
Right.
that up very fast, and have that machine up and running and sometimes in a half an hour, sometimes in a half a day, we're up and
Hmm.
running that part.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that comes back to that specialization and the niches. And yeah, if things are coming in that are just right in your wheelhouse, that sweet spot, like that reduces the variables that lets you execute on it.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah. I just interviewed a customer on my other show, and they do about 12,000. They're on track to do like 12,000 work orders this year.
Yep.
And, but similar to you, they have very similar types of parts and families and similar geometries, and they're just dialed in and they can, get jobs up in very short period of time. And there's not a lot of variables that they're having to switch between, a big titanium hog out and then a small little brass part and then an aluminum long skinny part. Like that's
Yep.
just not what they're doing. And
Exactly.
it's because exactly what you're doing. They're dialing it in to be very good at a certain type of thing and they just kick butt on it. So,
And I think it helps for us because when we get some of those short run jobs that are, um, especially the tech companies that need stuff turned in a day or two, when that job comes in the door, I usually have a machine switching over, right? I have enough machines that every day I've got, 5 machines or more switching over. So
mhm,
it's easier for us to slip a job in really quick and have that done in a half a day
yeah.
between longer run jobs, where that I think is a bigger challenge for shops that have less machines. So if you've got 3 machines and they're tied up on work that's going to be running for 2 weeks, your choice is now to break into a job that's running, and that's a lot harder than slipping something in between jobs that are already
Mhm.
scheduled. As many machines as I have, if I need to run a 1/4 inch aluminum part, I've probably got a machine out there that's running a 1/4 inch aluminum. Already got the material in there, the collet guide bushings in there, tooling's in there for aluminum. I can usually go over there and write a program and change out a few drills and maybe we got to add a threading tool or a knurl or something and quickly go to that part as well. So we have that
Mhm.
option at our disposal as well.
Mm. That's so good. In manufacturing, growth isn't accidental, it's engineered. But a lot of suppliers are still building their pipeline on outdated lists, inconsistent follow up, and hope based marketing, hoping their website will somehow bring in leads. Gabe Draper, the founder of Factor, knows that struggle. Years ago, he ran a shop that went bankrupt, not because of quality, but because he didn't have a steady way to generate new opportunities. That experience is what led him to build Factor. Factor helps suppliers create consistent sales opportunities by combining targeted outreach with marketing that puts you in front of the right buyers. Their team finds the right companies, starts real conversations, and sets qualified meetings. So if your pipeline swings with referrals or seasonality, Factor brings a system that puts you back in control. And for listeners of this show, Factor is offering a free custom report that highlights the best opportunities in your industry, plus a list of real companies that match what you do. Request yours at factormfg.com/chips. That's FACTUR mfg.com/chips. Tell us about your bonus program. How does that work?
So that was something that I put a lot of thought into. I have worked at other shops that had bonus programs, and I've talked to other owners that have bonus programs. Most of those are profit sharing programs, right?
Okay.
And
Yep. Yep.
um, I didn't really want to do a profit sharing program, and the main reason was that as business owners, if I've wanting to buy a new machine somewhere, I see a need for we need a new delivery vehicle or things like that. When it's a profit sharing, the employees are looking at what you're spending and what you're buying and those sort of things. And I think in some cases there's always a bit of concern or distrust from some of the employees that the numbers are being manipulated, right? So I
Hmm.
really wanted to go strictly off of sales. And so our bonus program is strictly sales based. I've got a minimum threshold that we have to meet, that they get a bonus based on that. And then as the sales for that month goes up, there's tiers, and every $25,000 of sales that goes out the door, that bonus to the employees bumps up. Um,
Nice.
and so to me, that was the fairest way, right? It was, hey, I'm going to get to work in the door. You guys get to work out of the door. The majority of our staff is very good about not wasting money. Everybody's pretty conscious about that. I think if I had a staff that was wasting money, maybe the profit sharing is better. But this is pretty cut and dry, right? We ship this much out the door. If we do get a rejection, which isn't very often, but occasionally we do make a mistake, when that happens, that comes off the bonus twice. So, say we
Mm,
get a rejection and it's $5,000 worth of parts that come back, regardless of reason for the rejection, whether we have to rerun it or not, those parts come back. That 5,000 is going to come off of the current bonus program. So if it was shipped last month and we're calculating for this month, it's coming off. And then when we rerun those parts and ship them out again, we're not going to pay bonus on the
that makes
reruns,
sense.
right? Because we didn't make any
Sure.
money off of rerunning parts. We make
Got it.
money if we run the parts the first time and don't run them again, but we don't make money on parts we have to do twice. Typically, that's a losing proposition. So
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
our bonus program is very simple. It's sales based minus double a rejection. It's very simple to deploy. There's uh,
Simple to track. Yeah.
simple to track, and it's a good motivating thing. The guys know that, hey, the sales is the sales, right? I mean, it's what it is. There's no manipulation in
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and like you said, they're more in direct control of it as opposed to you decide to buy a new truck or a new machine, and you're like, "Sorry, guys, there's no profit this month,"
th-
even though we shipped a ton of revenue.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. Did we
yeah,
really need to replace that machine? That old one was doing okay. Do we really need to
yeah.
buy another one? We're doing two big building expansions right now. And some people might say, "Oh, we don't really need that," or "We don't need to hire that extra guy," or this
Hmm.
sort of thing. And it kind of takes all of that out of there. Let's focus on getting parts out the door. That's what I need you guys to work on.
Yeah. I guess you could do the same thing with gross margin, but still, this is just a very cut and dried, easy to do thing, right?
Yeah.
Huh. I like it. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. Beyond probably the basics of scrap rate or on-time delivery, any interesting metrics that you track?
Not really. Not yet. So I'm working on some machine tracking devices and software. I mean, I've looked at pretty much everything that's out there, and there's some good solutions for it, but they all seem to be they're all subscription services per machine. And when you have
Hmm.
120 machines, that gets super
That adds
expensive
up.
really quick. And
No kidding.
and the economy of being able to write your own system uh, is very easy to figure out at that at
Hmm.
that volume. So we're kind of working on that, and so stay tuned. But uh, I've got a concept already kind of going that we'll be able to track quite a bit of our production, things like that. Our morning meetings will be fed. Daily production at our morning meetings. We'll keep track of the number of parts we're getting per day, and we'll at the end of the meeting, it's usually just the machinist in the meeting, and we'll kind of go over any challenges that the machinists are having so that we can kind of get together as a group and solve that.
Hmm.
And that's probably the metric that is most important to us right now.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier you're having the opposite problem of everything's busy right now, and maybe scaling or getting enough throughput is the main problem. How are you tackling trying to increase your throughput?
Training people, when I was early in my career, machinery, having another machine was like, oh my gosh, I can double my sales. When you have one machine and you get a second machine, it's you can double your sales. When you get a third one, and a fourth one, but at our point in our company maturity, it's now people. It's hiring and getting qualified people, getting machinists that are up to speed. Our goal at the moment is getting the training programs in place. I'm probably a little behind where I should be on that. We've been
Hmm.
working on that the last couple of years, but also getting some systems in place to help with that.
What kind of things are you doing for training?
Um, Really just formalizing the training program rather than just having kind of on the job is getting more formalized stuff where it's written down levels of the machinist training and many people out in the industry are way ahead of
Hmm.
where we're at, on
Hmm.
this whole deal. And having a guy that's kind of dedicated to doing that training is a big step for us. So,
Okay. Are you
um,
building out your own curriculum or using something off the shelf?
uh, building out our own right now. I
Okay.
haven't found anything off the shelf yet. I'm open to ideas, but I haven't found anything off the shelf that's uh, good at what we do here.
Hmm.
So, but also
Like,
taking some of those barriers out, right? So, like the feeds and speeds, things like that. Uh, we've got some software that's about half done at this point, where it will help uh, the machinist with figuring feeds and speeds and tool selection, things like that. So,
you- I'm just laughing. You seem like a very do-it-yourself, creative. You can tackle any problem kind of guy.
well,
I
we've
mean,
got other talented people here too that are helping. So.
but that culture of sort of being independent and doing it yourself. It seems like that's probably served you really well over all the years.
I think it has. So,
Do you think that's one of your kind of key measures of success, or just things you've done well over the years? That's one of my questions. Like, what have you done? What are the best decisions, the best strategies over all the years that has worked out well for you?
I think staying debt free has been really good because when we've gotten down into the downsides, I haven't had to cut hours. I haven't had to lay anybody off, and I think the employees appreciate that. The people that
Hmm.
are in here, all of our team members are they know that they're safe with me, and I don't spend a lot of money myself on my personal stuff. So I try to keep a large enough savings that if we do get into a slow time, I will pump money from my personal checkbook
Hmm.
into the business to help the business out. It's not a one-way street. I see a lot of guys in their businesses and they all want to milk the cow, but nobody wants to feed it. So I think that's an important aspect of it, keeping your expenses down, keeping your debt under control. I've seen a lot of companies scale very quickly, and especially as we've been kind of in an acquisition stage more recently, is seeing uh, how many people are in business and have been in business for multiple years that they're a bit underwater, to be honest with you. I mean, it's like they're selling their company, but they're not walking away with a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
because they haven't built actually a ton of value in those companies. Some have, but some have not. So I think that served me well. As far as the do-it-yourself kind of guy, I've always been that way. And has it served me well? I think that serves you very well early on in your entrepreneurship. It's a huge skill for launching your first company,
Hmm.
but you have to make that transition to letting other people do things. And so, what is a blessing early on can be a curse later on. And making that move to being a CEO where you're now delegating and kind of overseeing and getting higher and higher and higher as a pilot. I say the 50,000 foot, we're at the 50,000 foot level, looking down where I can see the whole picture. better because if I'm down on the ground, I'm not really seeing the whole picture of the business, and things are going to creep up on me, and I become very reactive rather than proactive in what I'm doing.
As someone is growing their business and maybe their own leadership or perspective, how do they know when the time is to lean more into that, or that's where they need to put more of their focus?
When you start to get to the point where you are struggling to get your work done and manage the people that you have working for you, it's a little bit too late. Right? You're at the point now where you've got to make a transition to being able to train up another manager or get somebody in there that can be a middle level so that you're directing them, they're directing this group of people. But that is a harder transition as you start to get, if you still have too much on your plate at that point, it's hard to train somebody and get all of your work done. So as you start to see that your your load balancing is getting to be 50-50, where you're doing your work half the time and you're managing people half the time, it's probably time to start at least grooming somebody to come up in the industry or in the shop to start to be a lead man or a leader in the
hmm
business.
I know sometimes I've heard from people that say, you know, I'm so busy doing everything, I don't really have the time, nor do I actually have the money to put a full-time salary person into, helping me with this stuff. So there's a little bit of a like chicken and egg thing. What would you say to someone that's struggling with that?
Well, what's your alternative, right? So your alternative of not doing that means that you're not growing anymore, or any growth that is happening is built on a house of cards. You're starting to get to the point where your business is constrained by the time that you have in the day, and you really can't grow anymore. And those customers, and I feel like you're either growing or dying in a
Mhm,
lot of ways because your customer or our customers are always getting bigger and growing. And I'm looking for companies that are growing. I'm not looking for a company that's doing, $100,000 with me this year, and I'm planning on doing 5,000 with them in 5 years from now. Right? It's not the
mhm, of
customer that
course.
I'm really looking for. I'm looking for the guy that's doing 5,000 this year and is going to be doing 100,000 in 5 years, which means that my business has to scale to support that customer. So if you're not growing your business, then that customer is going to go somewhere else. If you're at saturation, then they're not going to be able to grow and they're not going to be able to stay with you, which means they're going to go out in the market and try to find somebody else. And there's a good chance that they find somebody else that is able to service all of their needs, not just the ones that you're doing now and not just the stuff that you can't do.
Mhm.
So
That's good advice. Yeah. Um, do you recognize any sort of approximate revenue threshold where, like, an owner operator can no longer kinda manage everything and they kinda need to, bring in those middle folks?
I haven't done it enough times to give you that.
Okay.
I'm sure. Personally, I'm a high school and a college dropout, so I don't have the business education to be able to say, oh, it's at $3 million a year. But and I also think that it is. I know a guy that's you know him as well. That's got a pretty good sized business, and if you look at what he's putting out the door. Um, it's a lot of money, and he's a one guy operation.
Mhm.
And so most people would say, "Oh no, if you're doing that volume, you've got 5 people," and the metrics are going to say that. I think each business is different, right? You got businesses that are running on a very small margin. You got I know people that have their own products that are putting out millions of dollars a year with only a few people. But
Mhm.
then you've got people that to do millions of dollars a year, you got to have 20 people. And so it just depends on the business, I think, and how you've got things set up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay. So, given everything that we've covered, which has been fantastic, by the way, thank you so much. What would be your best advice for shops that are kind of newer in their growth, newer in their tenure?
my biggest thing is don't get out over your skis on debt. That's one of the biggest things because you know things have been good for a long time. We're due for a pullback at some point here.
Hmm
So be careful on that. Make sure that that's manageable. Make sure you're saving the money that you are making so that when that bottom does fall out, you can make it through and make your machine payments that you do have and take care of your employees. I think invest in your people. I think that's one of the best things I can tell you is invest in your people because if you don't, somebody else will. And they're really the backbone. They may not seem like it early in business because you're doing so much of the work, but they really are the backbone to your success moving forward. The people aspect, I just cannot overstate that enough of how important it is, to take care of them. And in many cases, I mean, I would not be anywhere near where I am today without the great team that we have.
Hmm.
So I would
Hmm.
say, watch your debt load and invest in your people is probably the two number one things.
Yeah.
Find a niche would be another one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. So if I can kind of piece together some of what you've said, really take the long view on your business, both with customers and your business itself. Don't go as soon as you have enough profit to go buy a boat or that big truck. Don't do that. Stock it away. Invest in your people. Make sure your business can weather those times, those slow times that do come and will come, and that's the formula for long term success.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Feed
I
that
agree.
cow. Don't feed that cow. Don't just milk it. I like that
That's
phrase.
that's right.
That's good. That's
So you
good.
can see that in a lot of stuff, and honestly, I think that happens in a lot of second generation businesses, right? When
Mhm.
the first generation retires and the second generation takes over, and they don't know what went into it, and they don't have that. Not all of them, obviously, but you do see a lot of businesses fail in that second generation, and in some cases, it's because the that cow is being milked more than it's being fed.
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, they haven't been through the trenches personally, and there's a business that's profitable and throwing off cash, and they're like, "Woohoo, this is great! I can live the high life."
Yep.
But yeah,
But the business is going to change, right? It's going to change.
sure.
And since '97, I mean, shoot, in '97, if I went and talked to another machine shop owner, and I told them I had Swiss machines, they looked at me like I was into witchcraft. It was like, oh my gosh, these Swiss machines, this is some black magic, you know, crazy stuff out here. And nowadays, it's pretty common to see most shops have a Swiss machine or more,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
where they're very common once they went to CNC. When I started out in the cam industry stuff, it was pretty rare.
Hmm.
So business is changing. So if you're not investing into your business tomorrow, the things that are working today aren't going to work tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, Chris, this has been just such a great episode. Thank you so much. You're definitely a skilled business operator. I appreciate you sharing everything. If people want to learn more about Swissomation or connect with you, where would you send them?
LinkedIn or shoot us an email on the website, swissomation.com.
Okay.
Uh, and then no dashes, just straight Swissomation. And yeah, I'm on LinkedIn as well. And
Okay.
so yeah, reach out. Instagram is Swissomation as well. So
Oh, nice. Very good. I'll have to go check that out. Well, thank you again, Chris. This has been a great hour, and yeah, appreciate you paying it forward into the industry.
sure. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Paul.